So I'm Rachel Buckman. I'm the Senior Education Associate at Sefaria. And with me is Esty Ellis, our Communications Associate. And I want to welcome you to today's Sefaria 101 webinar. We're going to assume a basic level of comfort with technology. So if you feel that the technology is going a little fast for you, what I recommend is that you just kind of sit back and get an overall idea of the whole thing. And you can write us in the chat if you would like a more basic tutorial, or in the evaluation form that we're going to ask you to fill out at the end. When you're working on your own, I mean, a lot of times when I see things, it all makes a lot of sense while I'm watching. And then when I'm sitting there in front of the computer myself, I forget some of it. So we expect that would happen. We have help sheets, which I'll be showing you when I share my screen. We have help sheets which provide additional guidance. And that link to the help sheets is on the sheet that that Esty put the link to. And we're also going to send it out to you. Also, anytime you're working on Sefaria, you can always ask us questions via emails to hello@sefaria.org. So with all that introduction, I do want to introduce Sefaria, and then we will get started. So at Sefaria, we are building an extensive library of Jewish texts and the tools to go with it. About 500,000 people a month from all over the world learn on Sefaria's website and apps. Last month alone, over 3,000 people created new sheets on Sefaria. So we're seeing so much growth, so much activity going on, and we're so happy that you're joining us to learn how to make the most of it. This webinar is just the beginning of your Sefaria journey. I won't be able to cover it all here. We are offering 2 more upcoming webinars. Information and sign up can be found at the link that Esty's going to put into the chat, and it's also on the sheet. So this Wednesday, November 17th at 8 o'clock Eastern time, we're offering a webinar on how to make Sefaria sheets. And on December 8th, also at 8 p.m. Eastern time, we're giving a deep dive webinar, which is basically part 2 of tonight's webinar. So if you'll notice things that I'm going to be skipping over and not explaining, you can come to the deep dive and we'll be hitting all of those. And I want to make a note that we're going to be talking about Sefaria source sheets and where you can find them, but we're not going to be talking at all today about how to create them. That's Wednesday night. So that takes a whole separate webinar. So today's webinar, we're going to be answering 3 questions. First, how do I find a text? Then, how do I learn about the text that I found? And third is, how do I go deeper into the text? So let's get right to it. I'm going to share my screen. Okay, let's share the screen. And here we are on okay, I'm going to close all of you, so I'm not going to see you. And again, if you have questions, you're going to type them in the chat, and Esty will be keeping an eye on that, and we'll be stopping. So the first thing is, I want to make sure that I can get to a text that I would want to be learning. And I'm going to show you 4 ways. Each of them are ways that you might want to use in different situations. I know I use all 4 of them. You'll decide as you're learning how to use Sefaria and playing around with it, what works best for you and for which situations. The first thing is, I know exactly what I want to learn. I want to get there as quickly as possible. And so we have a search bar, top right, on the English website. We also have a Hebrew website. If you're on the Hebrew, everything that I say that's on the right will be on the left. But I'm going to be talking about English. So we have a search bar in the top right. Always when you're in Sefaria, you have access to this search bar. You can see that it has like a little magnifying glass. It says search. And then there's a keyboard icon, which I'll talk about in a minute, to the right. So let's say I would like to open up Pirkei Avot, the very first Mishnah. I can just type in here, Pirkei Avot. You notice I get a drop-down menu with some icons. This book means it's to the book of Pirkei Avot. We'll talk about some of the other ones later, but I know exactly what I want. So I'm going to put Pirkei Avot 1, chapter 1, Mishnah 1, Pirkei Avot 1:1, enter, and automatically I'm there in the text. You'll notice that this time it came up all in English. And this is another feature that's across the whole Sefaria platform, is this A Aleph button that's in the top right, which I'm circling with my very large cursor. So I click on the A Aleph, and that lets me choose the layout and the language and the font size of my text. So I always have the choice of English, bilingual, or Hebrew. And this is only if we have a English translation. We do not have an English translation for every work in our library. It's not doing the translating. What it is it's actually just putting together the version. So I'm going to go to bilingual, which is my personal favorite. And I just clicked on that in the A Aleph button. And now I have a bilingual version of the text. So again, what did I do? I just typed Pirkei Avot. Let's say I'd like to type it and I call it Ethics of Our Fathers. That's another way to call the book. I can type in, and you see that that comes in the drop down menu too. Let's say I'd like to type it in Hebrew. If my Hebrew keyboard, if I have a Hebrew keyboard, I can just type in Pirkei Avot and that would work. And if I don't have a Hebrew keyboard and I want to type in Hebrew, this icon to the right of the search bar, if I click on it, it opens a Hebrew keyboard and I can click on the letters like this, just click, click, click. And that's another way that I can type in. So the very first way is for when I absolutely know what I want to look at and I want to get there as quickly as possible, I would use the search bar, just type in the citation in the general way that one types in citations, and it's going to open up for me. And that's number one. Number two is if you look on the top, and this for some of you might be new, we have this new design that we rolled out in the summer. If you look on the top left, it says texts, and that will take you to the library homepage. And the library homepage has all of our categories. Every work in our library has a category that it goes with. And you can see as I scroll down, you can see the extensive categories that we have: Talmud and Tanakh and Mishnah and Jewish thought and Musar and Second Temple and all these different categories. So I can go that way. Let's say I would like to open the Siddur. So one of the things, the features also of the new layout is that we have explanations of all of the categories and all of the works. So if I'm looking through in a Siddur and I'm trying to think, well, what would Siddur be in? Well, it would be liturgy. And if I didn't know that, I could look underneath and it says prayers, poems, and ritual texts like Siddur and Haggadah. And I would click on liturgy. And now when I'm in liturgy, I see the books that are in the liturgy section. So I see the Siddurim, they come up first, and I can see that we have several Siddurim with an explanation about what each of these Siddurim are. And then we have a Haggadah for Passover, and we have high holiday machzors, and you can just scroll through these and see what you want to open. So let's say I'm going to open the Siddur Ashkenaz. I click on it, and it opens right to the table of contents, and then I can keep clicking through to find what I want to learn. So that's the second way. Again, the first way, type in the search bar. Second way, through the texts and through our table of our library page here. The third way is over on the side in this same view. And we have learning schedules. So there are certain things that people tend to learn on a daily or weekly basis. The top three we put on this homepage. So we have the Torah, the weekly Torah portion. So if you want to study Parshat Shavua, all you have to do is click. I'm going to just click right there, and it's going to take me to this week's Parsha. So that was just quickly, again, from the learning schedules. Here's the Parsha, this week's Torah portion, the Haftorah, and for those who study Daf Yomi of Talmud, the page a day, there's today's page. And then below that, kind of small, I'm small, but it's there. It says all learning schedules. So if there are other learning schedules, if I learn something besides the weekly Torah portion, the Haftorah, or the daily Talmud, I click there, and now you see the many learning schedules that we give you a link to. So there, I didn't know before I worked at Sefaria and saw this page how many different learning schedules there are, and there are even more. So there's a weekly page of Talmud. There's there's Rambam, Mishnah Torah, 3 chapters a day, 1 chapter a day, all kinds of things. And there's an explanation for each of the learning programs. So that's the third way that you can quickly get to a text. So again, search bar, browsing the library, and the learning schedules. So that's 3 ways, and I promised you a 4th. So the 4th way, and then we'll take a break for questions. The 4th way is for when I don't know as much what I wanted to look for. So the others, I had in mind what I wanted, what text I wanted to open. Either I had it exactly, I knew the citation, I knew exactly like I want this week's Torah portion, or I knew I wanted a book, but I don't know exactly where it is. I can use the library to browse in. But let's say I don't even know what text I want to open. I know that, let's say I want to learn something about Hanukkah, but I don't even know which is fine. I don't know exactly where I want to go to learn about Hanukkah. And then for that, we have topics. And that's on the top next to text. We have texts and then topics. And if I click on topics, I can explore by topic. First, we have them categorized. So I could click through Hanukkah is a holiday. I could click to holidays, and then I could find Hanukkah. And here it is, Hanukkah. And it takes me to the topics page, which I will explain after the question break. Right now, I'm just showing you how to get to the page. So that's one way. Another way is I can always type the topic into the search bar. So we saw before that I typed my exact citation, but I also can, whoops, should be in the English keyboard. I can also type Hanukkah, and you'll see in the drop down, there are 2 of them here that begin with a hashtag. Hashtag means it's a topic page. We saw that book meant you're opening to the book. Here, there's a pile of sheets. That means it's opening to collections, which I'll show you later. But a topic page starts with a hashtag. So I could type the topic, the category that I want, the topic I'm looking into search in the search bar. Or another way is if I scroll down in the topics page, I have all topics A to Z. I can click on that. And now I have, you wouldn't believe the topics you could get so lost in here with having fun discovering things. But I could click on C for Hanukkah. And then again, I have so many. I could also just type Hanukkah in this search bar. And now I see that I could even be more specific. Maybe maybe Hanukkah was too big. Maybe I really wanted the Hanukkah menorah, or I wanted Hanukkah miracles and Maccabees, all kinds of things about Hanukkah. So I'm going to click on Hanukkah on the topic and get to the page. Oh, but I forgot, I wanted to show you one more thing. On the side of the topics page, we have trending topics. So this is topics that people have been clicking on. The first one you'll notice is last week's Torah portion. So a lot of people were looking for that. So that's trending, even though we're on the next week one. And this right now in our Torah portions, we've been talking about Jacob. So we have a topic page just for Jacob. People are getting ready for Hanukkah because you can see that Hanukkah is a trending topic as well. So, so all of these ways are ways to find texts on Sefaria. So I'm going to take a break right now and ask Esty if we have any questions. And this is just on how to find the text, because going into what we found, we'll get to next.
Yeah, thanks, Rachel. We have one question that sort of in general is asking if there are different versions of Sefaria online. And so I was wondering if you could speak to what there are different versions of and what there aren't, and some of which I know we'll hit in a bit.
Sure. I'll show you how to switch versions later on, but yes, we do. We have, for instance, for Tanakh, for Bible, we have several, we have many, we have the most versions for that. We have many English translations, so you can choose which translation you would like. We also have many languages for Tanakh. For some texts, we only have one. And as I said, sometimes we don't have any English translation, but we do have multiple versions. And one of the things that I think is really important anytime you're walking into any library or looking at anything online is to know what it is that you're looking at. And I'm going to show you in the second section about how to learn about the text is how do you know what it is that you're looking at? Because I think that's really, really important. You should always know Sefaria is very open source, open everything. And, we want you to know what it is that you're looking at. Not every translation is the one that everybody wants. Everybody wants different things. We are a library. We want to offer all of the Jewish texts that people are interested in. Of course, we do have limitations with copyright, so your favorite translation might not be on our site, but we always want you to know what it is that you're looking at, and I'll be going into that in greater depth in a little bit. Anything else, Esty, or we're good to go?
I think we're good to go now, and we'll come back to the questions in a bit.
Great. Okay, keep writing them in the chat, and so I want to go deeper now. I just showed you how to find the topic page, but I want to show you a little bit about what a topic page is and what you're going to find there. So, so let's go back to that Hanukkah topic page. So I'm going to type in Hanukkah in the topic search bar, and I'm just going to open up just plain regular straight up Hanukkah. So a topic page looks like this. It gives you the topic. It tells you what category it's in. And for most of them, I mean, we have thousands of these pages. For most of them, and probably the ones you're going to be looking at first, we have just a little paragraph about what it is. Then we have a list of sources. And if you scroll down, these are sources that talked about Hanukkah. And they might be there for different reasons. You might wonder, why is Leviticus, which is biblical, talking about Hanukkah when Hanukkah happened after? So sometimes you might want to wonder, how did this get in the list? And the way this is one of the things about digitizing the texts, is that you're able to do a whole lot of things with algorithms and find the things that people want to learn the most. So we use two sources for making this list. One is sheets that Sefaria users make that are about Hanukkah. So this is here. If you hover over the three horizontal dots to the right of every source in the list, it tells you why is it here. It says this source is connected to Hanukkah by sheets by Sefaria users. So this verse is talking about the dedication of the Oel Moed, the tabernacle, and it was 7 days. And because the Hanukkah is based on that, so people have used this source on the sheet, even though it's not really about Hanukkah, and that's how it got there. The major texts are actually in the Talmud, in the Tractate of Shabbat, which is not where you would necessarily go looking for it. So this is a great example of how the topics page helps you to get to, this is where the rabbis in the Talmud talk about Hanukkah. And this one is also connected by sheets. We also will see sometimes that it's, this one here says it's by sheets and Aspaklaria. That's an online encyclopedia that we use for data. So here you can see there's a lot of Talmud, there's Mishnah, all different kinds of things. Maybe there's all kinds of different things that you'll see, different texts. So what can you do with these? You can now click on any of the texts. I'm not going to do it right this second because I don't want to leave the page, but I click on it, I will go right into the library. Another thing I can do is, perhaps I'm skimming through and I want to save something for later. If I'm logged into my Sefaria account, which is free, and we'll talk about it at the end, I can click this little bookmark. Some of you might remember this as a star icon. We've changed it to make it clearer for people. It's now a bookmark, so which kind of goes with bookmarking. So all you do, if you hover over it, it says what it's saving, and I click on it, and now it is saved. I'll show you in a little bit where I find those, but I might want to save them because I'm researching and I'm going to go back to it later. I also can filter my results. It'll default to relevance, what it thinks. If you ask for Hanukkah, what it thinks that you might most want to know. But I can also, by clicking filter, I can change it also to chronological. Let's say I want to research the history of maybe some Jewish law, and I want to see it starting with the Torah, going through the Talmud and into the different codes. I want to do maybe chronological. For Hanukkah, that doesn't work out so well, because Hanukkah doesn't come in historically till later. So I might not want that, but it's there for the topics that is helpful. Another thing is I get a second search bar. So I'm going to put it back to relevance. And let's say I'm interested in Hanukkah, but I'm also, I want to know about Hanukkah lights. I can put a second search parameter and I type in lights. And now it's going to, all of the sources it's going to give me are going to be something about Hanukkah and about lights. I also could use this if I want, let's say, only Talmudic sources. I could write Talmud for my second search parameter. And now I have only Talmud sources. And when I get rid of that search parameter, I'm back to the full list. So, so that's how on the sources, I can filter them for relevance, chronological order, and another search parameter. Then I click on sheets. And now I'm going to see a list of sheets that people have made that are tagged Hanukkah. And we have on something like Hanukkah, we have a lot of sheets. So here too, I can filter them. They're going to come by relevance. I can also filter them by the number of views. If I'd like to see the most popularly viewed or widely viewed sheets, I click views. I also might be interested in the newest sheets. They're not going to have the most views because they're newer, but maybe I want something that's more timely. So I could click on newest, and there I would see the newest sheets first. So I get to choose how I'd like to view them. And here too, I can put a second search parameter. Let's say I would like a sheet on Hanukkah and miracles. And so I type in miracles, and I have all types of Hanukkah miracle sheets. So I can, and I also can save sheets in the same way that I did before. Also, you'll see on the side, we have related topics. So that's another way. These are all topic pages. So I started maybe with Hanukkah, and then I looked at it and I thought, I'd really like to know actually about the Maccabees. I click on Maccabees and I go to the Maccabees topics page. A person could spend a lot of time discovering a lot of things going from topic page to topic page. I mentioned that I saved a text, and so I want to, we'll look later at where I saved it. Also, a topic can be an author. So if I type in the search bar, let's say I want to type Rashi, and I want, you'll see here that there are books that Rashi wrote, and then there's also this icon of a quill. And that means that that's an author page or a topic page. They're basically the same at this point. I click on it, and now I have a topic page about Rashi with his popular texts that people look at. Okay, so again, just to review before I do questions, we have topics pages, and we get to them from either from typing in the search bar, looking for a hashtag, or from this list. And on the topics pages, we have sources and sheets. And I'm open for questions. I flew through a lot of things there.
Yeah, thank you, Rachel. We have a few questions for this round. Just want to start us off with. Someone asked if we spell Hanukkah with some different variations. I know it's a hotly debated topic.
Okay, let's do it. I'm going to show you in there. Here we go. Here's Hanukkah. Well, let's see. Usually we do have, well, I didn't spell it. How do you spell it? Hanukkah. Oh, that's why I didn't spell it right there. So we do have variant spellings. I can't say that we have them all, but we tried to think when we did the topics page to think of variant spellings. Often, even if you spell incorrectly, it's going to guess at what you were trying to spell. So yes, we do have a lot of them. Also, you could do it in Hebrew. So if you wanted to do that, that's an option. Yes.
Yeah. We also had some questions earlier on about the different interface on the app as opposed to the website.
Oh, great. I neglected to say that. So most of the things that I'm showing you, you can do on the app. In a little bit in the third section that we get to, there will be some differences, but you can so far pretty much what we're doing, you can do it. The differences come when we do things with lots of different panels, which I'm going to do in the third section. So, and there, just because of the size of the screen, that often the differences are due to the size of the screen. If you have a laptop, you can, or a desktop, you have a much bigger space to work with, and so we can offer you more on the screen. And if you have a phone or an iPad, you have less. But on your phone or on your iPad, you also can use the Sefaria website. So you could use the browser on your phone or your iPad and go to www.sefaria.org, and there you would have the experience of the website.
Great. And then I think last question for now, and we'll come back to some other questions in a bit. But we have, would you be able to give a short explanation for what sheets are? I know we'll have the more intensive.
Yeah, I'm going to show you. I have that actually coming up, that I'm going to show you a few sheets. But sheets basically are materials that Sefaria users, registered Sefaria users, have created for whatever purpose that they have. Some of them you'll find will meet your purposes. Some of them could just be a list of sources. Some of them have all kinds of media and explanations on any kind of topic. They're linked to our library. I'm going to show you how that works. And you can make them, you can share them, you can keep them private, that they could just be for you, or you could share publicly with the Sefaria community. I'm going to show you about 3 different examples of sheets, which will be better than me talking about them. And that's going to be coming up pretty soon. So thank you for asking it. And anything that I pushed off and I don't get to, come back at it, because I will get there. I'm going to keep going to, so we've talked so far about finding texts, just finding them. We haven't done anything with them, but just finding them. Here you're in this library. If you think about it, I like to think about, what would Rashi think or Maimonides think if he saw what we have? The library that we have in our pockets, in our phones, is the envy of people thousands of years ago, hundreds of years ago, even 100 or 50 years ago. So everybody has this incredible library. Doesn't mean that you know how to navigate through all of it. So a very big thought that our designers and our engineers have at Sefaria is how to make this library that now people have understandable, accessible to everybody. So that's what we're going to be talking about in this next section, is how do I learn about the text that I'm reading, and how do I manipulate it to make it look how I want to look so that I can study it. And that's another thing, the personalization that goes on here is really, really incredible, because the way I want to look at a text or what I need is different than maybe the person sitting next to me, and we don't have to all be doing the same thing. So I'm going to open a text. I'm going to go back to that text page, and I'm going to go to a different category. I'm going to try to hit on several categories while we're in our time together. I'm going to go to the halacha section, the legal, and again, it explains its legal works. And I'm going to go to Maimonides Mishnah Torah, and I'm going to click on that, and I'm going to stay with Hanukkah, and I'm going to scroll down. I see all the different books, and one of them is Scroll of Esther and Hanukkah, and that's where we find Maimonides talking about Hanukkah. I'm going to cheat a little bit because I know that it starts talking about Hanukkah in chapter 3, but I want to show you also that in the top right, it always has about this text. So here it tells me the author, Rambam, and it tells me when he composed it and where, in Egypt, and the dates. And it tells me a little bit. This one doesn't tell me so much. Some will tell me, because this is really a book, like a chapter within a larger, a book within a larger work. But if it were the whole work, it would tell me more. If I click on Rambam, this is linked, and now I go to Rambam or Maimonides, his author page. And so this is something that before I learn a text, I think it's kind of important. I want to know who wrote it, when did the person write it, where was the person living? And now I have a much bigger, little, although still short, biography of Maimonides. And we've written these all new for everybody. It tells me when he lived. It gives me 3 links. One of them I want to point out because it's brand new. So if you have been a longtime Sefaria user, I want to point this out to you. First of all, we have a link to Maimonides' Wikipedia page and page in the Jewish Encyclopedia, but our newest is that we have some links from the National Library of Israel. And I'm just so excited about this. I want to show you this one. It opens a new tab for you. And now we're in the National Library's website. And this is their Maimonides page. And so if I scroll down, so it gives me a longer biography. And then it tells me about some of his works and shows me manuscripts, which is just amazing. And again, another way that you can get very lost in Sefaria is that we're teaming up with the National Library, and you can see manuscripts. You can click on them to view them. So here we're learning, we're talking about Mishnah Torah, and I want to see a 14th century illuminated manuscript of it, which of course I do, but I'm not going to do it now. I would click on it, and that's like really, really great. And here are some of his others, and you could just keep going. So that is something that is new. And so we have many of those. Not everything has a link because the National Library doesn't have a link to everything that we have on our site. So, so that's there for you, which is really fun. So I can learn about the author. I'm going to go back to where I was before. There we go. So now we're back here. So I know who wrote it, what it is, and yeah, I'm going to open into it to chapter 3 because I did know that in advance. This is where Maimonides starts talking about Hanukkah. I can also click on the text, and this opens up the resource panel. And this is really where all the fun is on Sefaria. We're going to go into this more in depth in a minute. But the top one is about this text. Any text that I'm in and I want to know more about it, I click on the text itself to open the resource panel. And the very first one is about this text. And I click on that. And again, I get much of the same information. I could click on Rambam, tells me what we had before. It tells me my version. This is what I was talking about, where it tells me what version am I looking at right now. And one of the things that people ask me, I'm going to make it a little bit bigger so that you can see, is it tells me the license. So this text, this Hebrew text is in the public domain, which means if you're using it for any other purpose, you can use it without any attribution. And so that's really important. We get questions, which you're welcome to ask us, but I want you to see where you can find it out yourself so you don't have to wait for us to answer you. Every text almost will say the license, and it gives you, it's also hyperlinked. So if you want to know what does public domain mean, you click on it. I'm going to show you some different licenses. You might want to know that. So here's the current translation. This one happens to be a little unusual, that's merged together from 2 different ones. So, but it tells you who is the translation, and then there's alternate versions. So here we have an alternate Hebrew, and here you can see a different license. So this one is CC by SA. This is the Creative Commons licensing. And, you know, for me, before I worked at Sefaria, this was a whole bunch of gobbledygook. I didn't know what this was. So I could click on it, and it takes me to the Creative Commons that has, you can read about them, what they've done, but it makes it very clear that when someone puts a text up, it tells you what you can do. So this one, if you were to use this text, you would have to attribute it. You'd have to say where it was from, but it tells you exactly what you can do, and it tells you how you can use it. So that is also very helpful. If you see a license that you're not familiar with, you can find out what it is. If you have a question, you can email us at hello@sefaria.org. We'll help you out. So I could select a different version. I'm not going to do that right now. If I clicked that, it would change my version. Also, here is where I would download text. So this is all in the about the text section. Also, I can navigate through it. It used to be, this is a very new change. So if, last week. So it used to be you would click on the header to get to the table of contents. Not anymore. We're keeping everything in the resource panel. I think this makes it so much easier. I click on table of contents. I can also navigate that way. I'll show you that a little bit more. Also, I can choose a different translation if we have a different translation. So I click on translations. It shows me we have 3 English translations. I could go to just, as I said, this one I'm not going to click on. It's a little bit different. This one's a merged one, which means that we have wherever we didn't have with the Birnbaum translation, Rabbi Nataf translated for us. So it's his is not a full one, and the Birnbaum is not a full one. So we've merged it together. But in many cases, most cases, it's a full translation, and I could select that one. And you can always see, like, the Birnbaum is in the public domain. Also, Rabbi Nataf's is, that's something that we have asked for, and we put it always in the public domain so that you can do what you want with it. And we also have a Sefaria community translation that's also in the public domain. So you can always click there. So again, click on the text to open the resource panel. About this text table of contents translations, really important to find out about what you're looking to get to exactly the text that you want. Also, I mentioned the A Aleph button, which is on the top. And here, because I'm in a bilingual text, I can also choose how I want it laid out. I have it stacked, which is Hebrew on the top, English on the bottom. But if I'd like it side by side, I can click that. It's just the A Aleph button. I can switch it, put Hebrew on the right, English on the left. However it is you like it. If you'd like to view it with vowels, without vowels, and also font size. I could make it just make my whole screen bigger, but then things will get out of range. If I want to just make the text bigger, it's great to change it here, and I can just click to make bigger and make smaller. So that's always there for you. So one last thing I want to show you. Actually, I lied, 2 last things. Tanakh, I'm going to show you some more translations because I want to show you something that has a lot of translations. So I'm just going into Tanakh where I told you we have a lot. So here's translations. So here, our default is the JPS 1985, but I can go to all of these different ones. Let's say I'd like the Korean Jerusalem Bible. I select translation, and now I'm in the Korean translation. Sometimes I'm interested in how do different translators translate something. So I might just might not change it for forever, but I might want to say, okay, I want to see how this one and the other one change it. We also, for Tanakh, I'm just showing off now, but we have a couple German translations and Farsi and French and Italian and Polish and Yiddish. So you can have a lot of fun with different translations. More for Tanakh, we hope to be building this in the future. And the last thing before I stop for questions and we go into the third section is that there's something new that and for English speakers, I think it's going to default to this anyway, but let's say you are a German speaker and you want anytime that there's a German text, you prefer to see it in German. This is the profile button in the top right. We'll talk about it at the very, very end. If I go to my profile, if this is only people who have an account, and I go to my settings, we have a new thing. You can set many things here. I set my language, but I can set my preferred translation language. So I have it set for English, but if I were a Spanish speaker, I would click on Español, and every time that there's a Spanish translation, if we have one, it'll give me that one. But if not, it'll give me English. And I can do the same with French and with German. So again, for English speakers, this isn't such a big deal because it's going to default to it anyway. So I might have just confused you. If I did, just forget what I said. If this is fun and interesting, please remember it. So, okay, I'm going to break one more time. I only have 15 minutes, so I have the whole meat of Sefaria left. So let's see how we're doing on questions.
Yeah, one question I want to ask, and this might be more of a question for the Sheets webinar that we have upcoming, but do you know anything about the copyright status of user-created content in the Sheets?
Yeah, so it's all public domain. So if you make a sheet, you are making it public domain. Now, some people can add whatever they want on there, so they might add something that is not, but the sheet itself is in the public domain.
Okay, great. And if one is looking for a particular translation, is there a way to find out if a source has that particular translation, or you have to scroll through the
You'll have to
options?
scroll, you'll have to open the text and then see. It's actually, I did a lot of scrolling. It's actually not a lot of scrolling. If you ultimately have a question about a text, again, you can write to us, but you really should be able to find that out yourself, but we do not have a list of that.
Okay, great.
Okay, I really keep going because the third thing, we talked about how to find a text, how to learn about what that text is, and then the real fun begins in how do I go deeper into the text. And we're going to start on this. We're going to start on the side. I'm going to start on the Parsha. This week's Parsha is Vayishlach, the Torah portion. I'm going to click on it. One of the things I could have chosen is this is something I can toggle on or off in the A Aleph button is aliyot. I want it to show the aliyot. If it bothers me, I can turn it off. Also, on a text like the Torah, where there's different, you could also choose different types of vocalization. So in the Torah, you would have cantillation, you'd have tropes for how to sing it. So that's what I have right now on my screen. If I'm not interested in the trope, I might find it distracting. I can click on this middle one, which is Aleph, that just shows you just the vowel. I can click on that, and now I'm viewing it without the trope. I can also view it without vowels altogether. So, okay, so I am going to open that resource panel, which is something that you're really going to want to do on the app. You can also do this. It will be below the screen, not next to it. And this is where the real fun begins. Because we have digitized the texts, you can dig into related connected texts easily with a click of your mouse. So let's say I'm on the first verse of this week's Torah portion and I want to see commentary. It says commentary on the side. You can see that there's 64 commentaries, and you can see that it says EN, which means that many of them are fully translated into English. So I'm going to click on commentary, and now I see on the top, we have the top 4 commentators, Rashi, Ibn Ezra, Ramban, and Sforno, and you can see that they are fully translated into English, those 4. They are always on the top, and after that, it's alphabetical. You'll notice that some are in dark letters and some are in gray. Gray means that we have that person's commentary, but that person did not make a comment on this verse. Dark means we have it, but they did make a comment, and in parentheses is how many comments that they made. So I'm going to go to Rashi. You see that he has 2 comments on this verse. I'm going to click on Rashi, and now I see just a blurb of it. I see it in English. I can choose between only here English and Hebrew because I'm not in the full version. This is great to just sort of see what there is, and then I decide if I want to open the text in full. I'm going to open this top one in full. And now I have side by side. Here's my Torah text. Here is my Rashi that is connected to it. I have it now. You can tell it's in full. I have a full A Aleph menu. I can view it however I like. Hebrew, English, bilingual. And what I can do now is I can read it and I can click on Rashi. And now I get a new panel, and I can learn about Rashi up on the top, but I also have 6 commentaries on the Rashi. These are called super commentaries. There are people who comment on the commentator, and I can get to those. I can see any place that he quoted. You can see here he quoted to a midrash, to Genesis Rabbah. I could click right on that, or I could do it in the resource panel. And now it shows me that text, Midrash Rabbah. Here it is. It's a very long text. It's not in full. I can open it, and now that's in full. And on the app, you can only open one at a time. And the website, it just depends how big your computer screen can go. So now I have the original Torah text. I have Rashi. I have the midrash that Rashi quoted. If I keep going, you can notice that the midrash quotes other verses. If I clicked on this, I would get that on the side. But I want to show you that I can also go to other commentators. So now I looked at Rashi. The X always closes it out for you. I'm going to go back and I'm going to say, okay, now I want to see what did Ibn Ezra have to say. So I click Ibn Ezra, and now you can see on the top, I have still a tag for Rashi. I could go back to the Rashi. Yep, that's what Rashi said. and here's what Ibn Ezra said. And I can open Ibn Ezra in full, and I can do that over and over and over again with all of my commentators here. I also can, besides commentary, I have the link to anything that is connected to this. This is just one verse. There are 35 midrashim in our library that quote this verse. We have all of our categories here, places that quote this verse. So this is another place where you can really dig deeply. The next thing, because I am going to kind of just touch on these things, is sheets. So this is where I'm going to show you some examples of sheets. Here there are 72 public sheets that that Sefaria users have made, that they have put this verse on their sheet. And I can see all 72 of them. I click on it and I can just kind of glance down and see all of them. I can see a topic, I can see the title of it. Some people have tagged the sheets, that's very helpful. So it gives me an idea about what they were thinking about there. I'm not seeing so many of these, but you can also put, people didn't write them, but it's very helpful if people write a summary, because as we get so many, it's good to know kind of what it's about. This one doesn't have a summary, but I'm going to click on this sheet, and now I open it up and it's side by side. I can see right away, oh yes, I'm on Genesis 32 verse 4, and you can see that Rabbi Bernstein used this verse on his sheet. It might be further down. He also used that midrash, and I could go and I could see what he did. And he also put some discussion questions at the bottom. So that might be something that's nice for me to study. All of the verses, all the texts are linked. If I clicked on this, on Genesis Rabbah, I would click on it and it will take me to the text itself. But I'm going to go back where I have side by side, I have the sheet and the text. So this is an example of a sheet. I'm going to quickly show you 2 Hanukkah sheets to show you a little bit about what can be done. So this one is called What is Hanukkah? And we started with putting a few questions to think about, and we have some texts, and this one has a song. You can put media, you can play the song. If I click on this, it's going to start playing the song. You probably can't hear it, but I can. You can't hear it just because we don't have the Zoom settings that way. And you can put images, you can put, here's an image that you could put your own writing like we did on the top here with our own questions and texts. So it's basically a web page that you get to make very easily. This is new. If you look on the side, these 3 vertical dots now, this allows me to share it. It could copy it, print it, export it to Google Docs, all kinds of things. You'll learn about this in the Sheets webinar. Another one, this one is by Rabbi Ami Silver. This is a great sheet. So this one is more explanatory, less of text, but the texts are all linked. So if I clicked on them, I would go right to the text. And this is all about Kabbalah and Hanukkah, and it's a beautiful sheet. He has a lot of sheets. If I'm interested in this author, first, this is linked, and I can click on Ami Silver, and now I go to his page and I can see all of his sheets, which might be all of his public sheets, which might be interesting to me, because if I find one sheet that I like, I might like some other ones. So I'm going to go back to where I was, to sheets, but there's so much more that's connected. I'm going to go kind of quickly. Underneath sheets, I have web pages. I don't have actually time to explain how we get these, but these are websites that use our linker that have something to say on this verse. I'm going to show you just a couple of them. One of them, Rabbi Sachs's website, uses our linker, and I can see I can go to a blog post, and this will give me something to learn about the verse that I'm looking at here. You can see this is where his verse is. There's our verse. So I could go to that, or I could go to many other web pages. We have the virtual Beit Midrash, we have My Jewish Learning, these are fun to scroll through when you have time. We have so many that will get to you to really interesting content. Another place is up on the top. I pointed out texts and topics. And now we have community. On the community page, we have some highlighted sheets you might be interested in. This is for this week's Parsha, a sheet. This is for the calendar because we're getting to Thanksgiving. So we have some gratitude sheets. Also, Talmud is dealing with Thanksgiving and gratitude. That's another place that you can find some highlighted, always a Talmud sheet, always a Parsha sheet, sometimes a calendar sheet. Also, we always give you, or most of the time, give you something that you can learn about Sefaria. On the side, and I'm sorry for going so quickly, the sheet that we gave you is giving you links to all of this. You can explore collections. This is another way to see sheets. These are public groups of collections of sheets. Let's say I want to learn something about Shemitah. I'm going to scroll down. This is another place where you can really dig in and have a fun time discovering. I've done this kind of for you. There's a very nice Shemitah collection. Sorry if you're getting dizzy from the scrolling. And I probably passed it. Shemitah, where are you? Okay, it was here before, but let's look at something else then. I can look at a different topic. Let's look at here, the Rabbinical Assembly. I want to see a whole bunch of conservative rabbis who have shared their sheets. I can go there and see a bunch of sheets. I'm going to stop for, actually, I was going to stop, but I'm not because I want to show you one more thing. The profile page on the side. If you have a free Sefaria account, you are able to create sheets. There are most things you can do without an account. Making sheets, you need an account to track your learning, your history, which I didn't show you, but I will show you it's on your profile page. Let's go to profile. Actually, it's not on your profile page. Your history is up here on the bookmark. If I click the bookmark on the top, I see my saved sheets. This is the one I saved today. I can see the history. You'll be able to see all the places that I was at during this webinar. This is only available if you have an account. Taking notes is also available if you have an account. So if you want to do that, it's very easy. All the information is on the sheet that we'll send you tomorrow. And on the side here, you have all of that. You have your profile page, which is where your sheets are stored. You can create a new sheet. You can do your account settings. You can log out. And the help sheets. This is really important. The help sheets are a collection of sheets that cover all the things that we talked about and more. And that's a great place to go if you need some help. Now I will stop for questions. I'm sorry, it's only a few. I will stay longer. I want to thank everybody for coming, and also mention that we are a nonprofit and we have a donate page and we always welcome donations. So Esty, sorry, questions.
No, we're great. You
It
want to
just
tell?
reminds me of how much we've added, that this used to be easy to do in an hour.
Absolutely. A question that was asked earlier that I think maybe could be just a nice thing to spotlight on the way out would be the reference section in the text in our library.
Yes. So if you're in the text, let me show you some great things that we have. So again, I'm just going to any text. I'm going to put it in Hebrew. If I have the resource panel open, which is a good idea to do, I can double click on a word and the dictionary is connected right there. I have the dictionary on the side. This one, we have about 3 dictionaries. We have Klein, we have the Jastrow, and we have this open dictionary, this other one. Also, I can type in, let's say I want something else. I can type a word. I can use this keyboard. You can go to the reference section on the side. Dictionaries on the side, and there it will get me there as well. And we do have a reference section here if you want to go straight to the book that you want, but they are linked. And here we do have some extra things. We have some grammar, all kinds of great stuff. Again, a nice place to do some, if you have some spare time to dig around. But I think the way you'd use it the most is with our dictionaries, which is, but you have to have the resource panel open and then you double click. Another great resource that we have in Talmud and in Mishnah is, I'm going to just open anything. And this does work in Hebrew and in English. Again, you need to have the resource panel open. I'm looking for a mention of a rabbi. Of course, I'm not finding it right now, but here we go. So we have Rav Papa. If I hover over it, you see it's underlined. I double click, and on the side we have biographies of the rabbis, which is really great. It'll tell me something about, so I want to know who is this Rav Papa who said that. And then if I want somebody else, here Rav Ashi said this. So I double click and I have him on the side. Okay.
Do you have concordance?
We do not, but you can search for something. So let's say I'm going to search for a word. I'm going to search for Mayim. I put it in Hebrew. I'm going to search for it on the bottom, not the top of the page. And so now I have all of our results for it, and I can now search on the side. I could choose if I want, let's say, all of the Tanakh sources for Mayim, and you can do this in English too, but it'll tell you our English translations. I can also pick which books within Tanakh, and I can sort through. It's not as authoritative as a concordance, but this works like a concordance.
I see. Second question, do you have some updated halacha reference?
Updated, you mean more modern works?
Yeah, for halacha of today.
Yeah. So if you look in any of our sections, so we usually have things categorized by, and same thing for commentaries. So we start with the main sources, and we have Rishonim, so the earlier commentators or writers. In this case, it's halachic writers, Achronim, and then we have a modern section. So yes, we have Pnei Halacha, we have, and then we have commentaries also. So you can always look, and the same thing with commentaries, that we have them grouped in this section. We have them grouped. If you wanted commentaries, they're all listed here. You have to scroll down a while, but here we have the earlier ones, and then we have the later ones, and we have modern ones. We are always trying to get modern things. Modern things are harder to get because of copyright. So we are always looking to ask, but here are our modern commentaries on Tanakh. We have Nechama Leibowitz sheets. We have Dr. Aviva Zorenberg's book. So yeah, so that's the answer. I'd like to go back to Esty with the questions that people have written in. And if you need to log out at any time, I certainly understand, but I will keep going.
Yeah, I think I've invited everyone who's listening in to send us an email at hello@Sefaria if there's any questions we did not get to.
Oh, thank you. Yeah, that's always a good place, and I'll get to them quickly. We try to get to you within 24 hours with the answers to your questions. Okay, I really appreciate stop sharing so I can just see who's here. Appreciate you joining us tonight. Again, we have on Wednesday, we have a webinar totally dedicated to sheets. And on December 8th, I think I said it was, we have another one where we could go all those things that I skipped over. We're going to get to them. I'll be doing that one again. The sheets will be somebody I work with who does great sheets webinar. The deep dive will be me again. And we'll be able to go into all of the things that we didn't have a chance to cover, because really Sefaria is growing all the time with all kinds of exciting tools and texts. We'll be talking about more of the tools next time. So I really appreciate you all joining us. And please fill out our survey or evaluation after, and we will be sending you a recording with the sheet, which I think should probably go out tomorrow. So thank you so much.